Happy 2017. Happy New Year to everyone. This is Gus here at CrossFit Glorified. And again, our YouTube channel. And we're going to be going over a couple of comments or questions that we find here in the box at CrossFit Glorified. And in this week's edition, is going to be a comment. So a very familiar comment you always get, and I'm sure a lot of other box owners and box coaches hear this a lot. I'm in pain. I'm in pain. So I want to talk about that because everyone comes into the box says, and I usually ask, how you doing? I want to find out how the athlete's feeling, how the individuals are feeling from not just a physical perspective, an emotional perspective as well. And common thing is I'm in pain. So let's talk about that a little bit because pain can come from two different things. It can come from a soreness or it can come from an injury. So when I hear that, I need to find out what's really happening. Is it because you have an injury or because you have a soreness? Huge difference. And I think sometimes for CrossFitters, I know for me for a while, it was hard to identify which one was a soreness and which one was injury. And the reason why was because when especially in the beginning when I first started CrossFit, my muscles were so sore. Just taking off my shirt, just lifting my shirt off would hurt. Or putting on a pair of jeans would hurt my legs so much. I was like, this just is very painful. I must be injured, or at least I thought that. So what I'm going to do today is go over a couple of things to help you identify the difference, and hopefully this gives you an idea. It's just a frame, an idea of the difference between soreness and injury, and that way when you are feeling pain, you can be like, if you check these off your list, it can give you an idea if you are dealing with an injury or if you're dealing with soreness, and you know the difference. Because obviously there's some major injuries that you'll know right away you're injured, but there's some minor injuries you might be able to, you have a high tolerance and you might push through an injury, which is not recommended. So I want you to know the difference. So let's just go over it real quick. I wrote some of them here on the board, okay? And I'm going to go over it real quick. So soreness, DOMS, which is abbreviation for delayed onset muscular soreness, is caused by micro tears in the muscle. So there are micro tears in the muscle, and usually you'll start to feel sore anywhere between 2 hours after your workout to about a day. And it'll last, and it kicks in usually about 12 hours after your WOD. It kicks in pretty hard, and it peaks at about 36 hours, somewhere between there. So you know within 2 hours of your workout to about 36 hours, what's going on, you'll feel soreness. What's the difference with an injury in that sense? An injury happens immediately during training. So immediately an injury happens. And usually you can be doing a WOD and your adrenaline it's up so high that you will feel something, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll stop. You can continue to go. So the first time I tore my ACL in soccer, I was out right away. My second tear, my MCL that happened, I was able to finish a game and realize afterward that I tore my MCL. So some people with adrenaline going can actually work through an injury when they're in the middle of a sport or middle of a WOD or a workout. But usually the determining factor is one, it takes a certain amount of hours, and the other one is immediately happens. The second thing that can help you here is usually a normal muscle soreness, okay? Normal muscle soreness can go away 2 to 3 days. 2 to 3 days, it begins to disappear and it goes away. An injury, if 2 or 3 days pass and you're on your 4th day and you're still feeling, you're on your 5th day and you go to a week, you go to 10 days, it's probably a good idea to go seek medical attention right away, because at that point, after 7 days or 8 days, your soreness should be gone. And it's no longer a soreness. Instead, it's probably an injury. So that's another good point for you to know. The third thing that we're going to talk about here is what you're feeling in a soreness or in an injury. What exactly are you feeling? So usually with a soreness, muscles seem to feel really tight. You have a tender touch. So if anyone did like a major leg workout and they're like really sore and you grab their leg, man, that would be so tender. They'll just jump up. They'll really feel it. It won't be too comfortable. And it's going to be tight and it's going to be very tender. And you also, when you're working out, after soreness. So if you worked out, you're very sore and you work out again, you're going to feel obviously tired and you're going to feel burning sensation. That's with a soreness. With an injury, it's a little different. You'll feel a sharp pain, a stabbing sensation. So those gives you an idea between the different. One feels more like a burn and you're kind of tired and it's really tender to touch, but the other one is a really sharp pain, often akin to a stabbing sensation. All right. The fourth thing you have between a soreness and an injury, so you kind of can have this and check things off when you feel pain, is that the soreness normally involves a larger or broader area of the muscles. For example, such as the belly, the quads, the hamstring, the calves, the pecs. It's broader, larger. Where with injury, usually it's small area that hurts. When pressed on, it's tender, and it's either in the tendons, the bone, or the joints. And you most likely can pinpoint it with your finger. So right now I'm dealing with a back injury, and I know it's an injury. I've already had an x-ray and they've told me what it is. So I can literally go to with my finger and pinpoint that exact location where it is. And usually that's the way it is with an injury. With soreness, you're like, oh man, my whole everything, it just hurts here, and you touch everywhere. And that gives you another idea. The fifth thing is with a soreness is symmetry. That means that it's present equally in two parts. It's present in two parts. So usually when you're sore on the left, you're sore on the right, you're sore on the left side and the right side, and so on and so on. But asymmetrical is with injury. It will be present in one area, or one leg, or one calf, or etc., etc. So usually in one area, like I say, you can pinpoint it with your finger. So that's the difference with that. The sixth thing that we're going to talk about here is when you're sore, okay, usually you won't feel a lot of pain when you're sitting around doing nothing. So if you're really sore and you kind of sit down, you won't feel a lot of pain. If you lay down in your bed, you won't feel a lot of pain. With an injury, that's the total opposite. It will cause pain no matter if you sit down, no matter if you stand up, no matter if you try not to do anything. If you get a heating pad, an ice pad, usually you're still going to feel the pain. Obviously, unless you're taking some high dose of medication or something like that to kill the pain. But you will feel it. So my back now, what I'm dealing with, you feel the pain all day long, no matter the position or whatever I get myself into, because obviously it's an injury. And that's the difference. When you're soreness, you're sore, you sit around, you don't feel it as much. That gives you another idea between both of this. The seventh thing now, soreness. Soreness gets worse by being immobile or sitting for a while. So here's the thing. If you're sore, and you're like, well, I'm going to wait until the soreness goes away to work out or to do anything, to walk, to run, to whatever, it usually gets worse. So the next day you feel sore, and then if you don't do nothing, you're going to feel the next 12 hours is going to feel pretty bad. Usually moving around, stretching, using bands, doing a workout like that usually takes the soreness away and it goes away. So that's why most people that work out all the time and do CrossFit all the time, it's hard to get them to really to feel sore like when you first started CrossFit, where you feel like you're dying, you can't even walk, you're like, I can't even get up off the toilet, I can't even go up the stairs. It usually doesn't happen when you're doing CrossFit for a while. With an injury, it gets worse by being active. So it's the total opposite. If you have an injury and you're trying to be active and it's like, well, I'm just going to do this, I'm going to do that, it gets worse with that. But I want to be clear about something. It depends the kind of injury we're talking about too. When you have a specific injury, for example, I have a shoulder injury, for example. Doesn't mean you can't use your legs to do something because your shoulder. I hurt my finger. It doesn't mean I can't, work my abs and other muscle groups, or do cardio, or do some stamina work, or do agility work, or do flexibility work, or any of the different domains. You can work out. You can do different things depending on the injury. You have to avoid that area that's injured. So that area that's injured, you want to isolate, keep it immobile, not moving around, do what you need to do to let it heal properly, because if you don't, it won't heal properly, and you're compensating and getting hurt somewhere else, and you have another injury in another place usually, and that's the way it works. Let's go to number 8. Usually with soreness includes some swelling, but usually it's typically over diffused areas. So it's not major swelling. Well, for example, with an injury, And when I've had my knee injuries, they swell up pretty bad. Swelling is not a good sign when you go to look at your knees, your ankles, and stuff like that. Injuries, sprained ankle, ACL tear, MCL, whatever in your knee, you'll see that there's a lot of swelling that takes place in that. So swelling is usually a sign of injury compared to soreness. That's another good sign of telling you the difference between you being sore and you being injured. Finally, let's talk about the sound and what you're hearing. So literally most of the time, it's not all the time, you'll hear no sounds with doing soreness. You don't work out and you hear any sounds, but with injuries, you can hear a snapping. If you break something, you can hear cracking. You can hear different kind of sounds. Those sounds are a good sign that you are injured as well. So sounds plays a big part. I know that when I did my knee, every time I've injured, I've definitely heard something. And it's a huge sign for me to know. But it's not necessarily true for every time. So the difference between soreness and injuries, we've gone over 9 different things. I hope this gives you a little bit of a base to kind of know the difference. So when you're in the box next time, you say, yeah, I have a lot of pain. It's like, what kind of pain are you feeling? Hopefully you understand that you're maybe sore versus sore meaning you can work out and you can push to that, versus injury meaning you can't work out and you can't push to that, and you have to take care of yourself, and then you might need attention for that, medical attention for that. So we need to know the difference, and hopefully those things help you guys out. And that's this week's edition of what we're going to go over. You have a happy new year again, and we'll have other posts coming up soon. Have a good one.